A smart, high-style and solar-powered city, it's Senegal in the future, and the plan comes with a price tag of $6 billion. Last week, the singer Akon announced that construction will begin in early 2021 to transform the city into a futuristic place called Akon City. It's so futuristic that it will look like a real-life Wakanda, the technologically advanced fictional African country in Marvel's Black Panther. The new city will be established on 800 hectares of land in Mbodian, which is 100 kilometers from Dakar, and he's already got plans for a digital currency, Akon.
So this project, we're looking at Akon City as to become the beginning of Africa's future. And our idea here is to build a futuristic city that incorporates all the latest technologies, cryptocurrencies, and also the future of how African society should become in the future.
Akon City will have pretty much everything for tourists: seaside resorts, eco-friendly tourist centres, luxury houses and shopping malls. But besides attracting tourists, Akon also wants to provide a new home for African Americans who have faced racial injustices.
So I wanted to build a city or a project like this that will give them the motivation to know that there is a home back home. And it's something that they can relate to, that they're familiar with. And it's something that they don't have to fear. And they also have a choice. Because the system back home treats them unfairly in so many different ways that you can never imagine. And they only go through it because they feel that there's no other way.
Akon City is not the singer's first development project. He released a song called Africa in 2010 to raise funds for the Confidence Foundation, his charity that builds schools and hospitals in Senegal. In 2014, Akon also announced the Light Up Africa project, which according to his website, gave more than 500 million Africans solar-powered electricity in 25 countries across the continent. Yet Akon has been criticized many times, and the latest target is the Akon. The digital cash currency is planned to work with cell phone minutes rather than fixed currencies, so the question is, how will it work in Senegal, where only a third of the people use a smartphone? Critics suppose that this real problem won't be the only one for Akon's city of the future.
Ola Uduku is a professor of architecture and joins me from Edinburgh now. Hi Ola, thank you so much for coming on our show today.
Hi.
So Akon City is being called a real-life Wakanda, but is it too much to say? Do you think he can really pull it off, or is it a bit out of touch with the reality?
Well, I think it's a very interesting concept, and it's really interesting to see kind of film to reality. But I have to say that it does come from a long line of other concept ideas. So, for example, we know that in the Democratic Republic of Congo, we have Le Fleuve, and in Lagos, there is the Eco-Atlantic City. But I think as an idea, it's a very good way to start thinking about new areas in Africa. However, the foundation of the idea is very much around it's being a diaspora city for returning Africans and African Americans. And we have to ask who will actually benefit in terms of it being a democratic society and city example, which is again what the whole Afrofuturism Wakanda concept is about. It's about a democratic future for Africans where we all live in an urban area where things are much more equal. I'm not convinced that at the moment the idea about the new city is going to be necessarily democratic.
Okay, so who should be benefiting from a project of this sort then?
Well, I would have thought the people in Senegal. So Senegal, like a lot of West Africa, has a lot of people who are living in, to be honest, extreme poverty. So the idea about these cities is that it's a place for everybody. It's democratic. You could be rich, you could be poor, you could live in this new Akon city. At the moment, it does look as though the concept is very much around it being a high-tech city. And if you're rich enough, you can get a flat and everything. But I think for a lot of the average Senegalese, unless they're servicing the apartments as servants, drivers, and so on, they're not really going to benefit from living in these new futuristic buildings.
So what could Akon have done instead of this?
I feel possibly he could have worked with the planners. in West Africa, in Senegal. There's a lot of very good architecture in West Africa. African modernism, there have been books talking about the modern cities in West Africa, and maybe working more with local planners and indeed with the United Nations Habitat, and thinking about what would be a way of looking at producing a democratic, if you like, time capsule, a way in which we could look at cities. In the old days, we had Tema Newtown in Ghana that was planned as a new city that looked at all kinds of occupation, not just for the very rich. So there's a lot of good intellectual manpower on the ground in West Africa that he could have worked with. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, for example, I think when you look at, I mean, a lot of architects are saying that when you look at the renderings of the project, they're not much different from the other smart city proposals from all around the world. So this project could be very well outside of Senegal anywhere. So this lack of reference to locality, why is it problematic? Can you please explain it to us?
Well, I think again, if we go back to the whole concept of Afrofuturism, it was very much looking at African references. So I did take a quick look back at the Black Panther movie, and the references were bits of Africa. There are bits of Zimbabwe, Greater Zimbabwe, actually bits of West Africa, the Kano Walls, and so on. Whereas this rendering that we have of the current city, the new city, is much more, it could be anywhere. It could be in Dubai. I have to say, I've heard that the main architect indeed is based in Dubai, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas
Mm-hmm.
there are very interesting architects on the African continent. For example, we have Dibedu Kere from Burkina Faso. We have in the UK, we've got David Ajay, who's both Ghanaian and British. So there are African architects whom he could have worked with, who would have also brought in, I think, much more of the African cultural references. And Senegal particularly has a very, very strong background in style, textiles, and things like that, which could also be translated into, I think, really interesting bits of architecture.
Mm-hmm. I mean, some people are saying that Senegal's extremely warm and dry climate is not really good fit for the materials that are seen in the renderings, the concrete, glass, copper, and steel, and huge windows, as we see. So do you think it is likely that this project is going to be successful in the end from what it looks like right now?
I think what you are seeing are renderings, and that's the key word. So that's the concept. I hope, because I do think it's really good that we have an investor willing to spend this amount in Africa, that this will be moderated as it actually goes to ground. I hear it is now breaking soil, but we expect in today's sustainable future anyway, some of these ideas are already becoming outmoded. There will be a need for the buildings to be much more sustainable. But I would hope also that the concepts take into account, as you're saying, the actual thermal requirements in a drier climate, where we know that materials actually like compressed earth, mud, and so on have actually been developed nowadays to have really interesting possible examples. So we don't have to stick to the materials or indeed the way the rendering looks like at the moment. I'm hoping that there will be a chance to modify this further.
Mm-hmm. And Ola, as you just, said in the beginning of the interview, it really is a part of a larger discussion regarding Afrofuturism. So can you please tell us why people think there is something empowering in this project, which is, I guess, sort of claiming your own future and sort of owning your own future. But why was this lacking from the architectural scene so much? And what can this project do in that sense?
Okay, well, I think, again, if we look at the histories of architecture over time, certainly since the Second World War, there was an idea that the international movement was very much being driven really from a Western perspective. I think that in Africa, particularly, it's been very difficult to move from everything in the West is best to a situation now where I think with movies like Black Panther and with this furthering of the development of the idea about Afrofuturism, there's that the ability to build and to actually create new ideas and conceptions of how we can live is very powerful, it's very strong. And the imagery that goes with it, indeed, Wakanda and so on, means that for a lot of Africans and Black people across the world, it's suddenly, well, it has gradually become something that we can aspire to. We no longer have to say, well, if it's in New York, that's what we want in Africa. The whole Afrofuturism project says we could actually do this. And in some ways, this project and other projects, as I've talked about earlier, are beginning to say we can actualize our own ideas of what is development on African soil, but with much more African features, which is, I think, where in a way this project at the moment could do much better at. So the idea about actualizing our own ideas about urban life is positive, and I think Africans really want to be in that space. But the next thing is to actually create an identity that really looks like it is original and from Africa, and that, I think, is the Afrofuturism project, that we can actually have our own identity that is really located in our understanding of design, style, architecture.
Ola Uduku, it was really, really helpful. Thank you so much for sharing your perspective with us today.
You're welcome.